Hello to all my friends and family, and welcome to Jim's 5am Club. I'm just positioned here in front of the Four Seasons Hotel. It's lunchtime. I've just had a bite to eat, so I don't have enough time to go all the way down to Circular Quay. So I thought I'd do a 5am Club from a different position and just allow Sydney just to parade itself in front of me as I go through and deliver a book summary. So the book summary that I'll go through today is entitled The Signal and Noise, and the author is Nate Silver. So an interesting book, and the key message from this book is, why do so many predictions fail? And what can we do to make better calls in the future? And it's an interesting one because we're surrounded, as we all know, we're surrounded by people who are fear-mongers that are sowing their seeds of fear, uncertainty and doubt, and are making all of these bold predictions, many of which, in fact, none of which will ever come to fruition. So how do we understand, or how do we unravel and find out what causes these people to make these silly predictions and why these predictions never come about? Because being an accountant for most of my life, I've been around numbers and I've played with numbers. I understand numbers. I understand proportionalities and relativities. But at the end of the day, even the best organisations out there, the numbers that they have, the numbers that they base decisions on, are fairly rubbery at best. So exact numbers and the accuracy of estimates really hold up, is the key message to come from this book. Because just gathering the right numbers, working the right numbers and coming up with a reasonable sort of estimate is a pretty difficult thing, especially in a world where we've got moving targets all the time and lots and lots of numbers to confuse us by. And it's usually better to pick a range than to actually pick a number. You know how we have economists all the time, or share market, or stock analysts sort of talking about numbers. What the author is saying is that it makes more sense to pick a range with an upper limit and a bottom limit, so that we can at least have a range to look at rather than a number, because numbers rarely ever pop up and are ever accurate. So, and we all know it. Economists get it wrong all the time. You can get 30 economists predicting or trying to predict the economic growth over the next 3 years, 5 years, and they can't even get it wrong 3 months out, let alone a year out or 5 years out. And having studied economics, I know that a lot of this analysis, a lot of the predictions are based on assumptions, and those assumptions are wild. They and a lot of the assumptions never hold up. So what do we make of it? I guess the bottom line is that people make predictions, they predict numbers, they predict outcomes, but even the best analysts can't even pick the winner of a 5-horse race, let alone pick the winner of the Melbourne Cup, where there are so many variabilities and so many things that can go wrong, and there are so many things that can go right, which ultimately change the outcome and impact the results in a big way. So the second point that the author comes up with is that human judgment is a necessity for all good predictions. And how do you identify somebody who's got good judgment? Because I think at the end of the day, good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from being involved with lots of outcomes, making mistakes, getting it right. So you need to have a number of mental maps in your mind that you've experienced over time. And at the end of the day, it's all about probabilities and whether or not certain things will happen and whether or not assumptions will come about. But we mustn't base our assumptions on numbers in the first place. Because what happens is that people tend to turn off their common sense, according to the author, and rely solely on statistical sense and on numbers. To put things into perspective, there are over 4 million economic indicators that are being tracked constantly. So that in itself suggests that there is far too much data out there, and it's impossible to analyse all of the data, or even parts of the data, or even to identify which data is accurate, which data is useful, and to put weightings on those different pieces of data. Because first of all, the human mind is incapable of analysing so much at the one time. Maybe in years to come, with supercomputing and artificial intelligence, we may get closer to making better predictions of the future. But at this point in time, for most people, it's a stab in the dark, and the best you can possibly hope for and expect is at least to get an answer which is close enough to keep you out of trouble, rather than something that's going to be spot on and win you the prize. So what do we learn? What do we learn from this book? The thing that we learn is we need to be skeptical about data, skeptical about information, and extremely skeptical about the people who are out there making predictions based on data and making predictions based on their view of the world, because each and every one of us have only a slither of the view of the world, and by making predictions based on that limited information, we're going to be disappointed and disappointing to many people, because more times than not we're going to be leading people down the garden path than being bang on the money, as I alluded to before, and as the author alludes to in his book. Let me just have a look again. It's Nate. So Nate would be Nathan, so I'd imagine that Nate is a male. Not that it makes a difference. So the last point that comes out of this book is that for better predictions, we need to consider a thing called Bayes' theorem. So what's Bayes' theorem all about? And it's an interesting one, this one here. So I've never heard of Bayes' theorem in the past, but Bayes' theorem just comes about in terms of assessing the chances of having breast cancer if the mammogram comes back positive. A serious one, but something that can help put everything into perspective. And according to Bayes' theorem, the first challenge that we face when we have any test is that there is at least a 10% chance of having a false positive. So there's a big chance that the test is wrong from the beginning. And to try and help put it into perspective, and I can't profess to be an expert on Bayes' theorem, but the author here suggests and says that research shows that the number of people with cancer after a positive mammogram result is probably about 10% anyway. So what it says is that yes, we get data, yes, we get positive results, yes, we have concerns, but after you go through and analyse and do all the tests and look at all the treatments and all the possibilities, the bottom line is that the people who actually have the cancer, after the analysis and after the tests have been fully looked into, is as low as 10%, which is positive news for all of us. So I guess the bottom line is, don't get dismayed, don't get overwhelmed with any results, any tests. Just because the weatherman says that there is a 100% chance of rain or a 50% chance of rain, if you look up at the sky on those days, then you'll probably see a blue sky and a few clouds, and it's not raining anyway. So I guess this all puts statistics and predictions into perspective, to not hang your hat or to be too concerned with the bullshit predictions that people come up with, because there are always people out there who talk with authority, act as if they know what they're talking about, quote statistics and tests and results and indicators, but at the end of the day, the important thing that this author teaches us is that all of that is bullshit anyway, because life is a lot more complex, a lot more difficult, a lot more complicated than what we give it credit for. And the bottom line is that most of the stuff that we worry about isn't worth worrying about, and all we basically need to do is just to get on with life, stay in the present, appreciate our past, respect our future, but just do whatever we need to do to get through the moment, get through the hour, get through the day, and tomorrow is another story, and it may not be as bad as what people had predicted it to be. We look back 12 months ago and things looked dire with the economic forecast and what the future looked like, but looking back from today, 12 months later, the economy has bounced back strongly. The share market is cruising at record highs, and the housing market is looking at having a record year this year, kicking up even higher. So, to all of those people who wasted their time listening to the predictions of the negative Nancys and the Debbie Downers and the Steve Keens of the world, you're probably in a worse place today because you haven't taken action, you've sat back, you've procrastinated, worried sick about the future, or selling up and just hoping that things get worse so you can buy back in, only to realise that you probably can't get back into the market now because you've missed that wonderful opportunity that comes once in a lifetime to get in when the market has a dip. So let's move on and finish off with our positive affirmation. I'm alive, I'm well, and I feel absolutely great. To my friends and family, stay connected, stay relevant, and let's take some lessons from this book and not get too overly concerned and too caught up with predictions, statistics, because a lot of it is just a waste of time and a job for some people. Somebody needs to pick a race favourite. Somebody needs to predict the weather. Somebody needs to predict where the economy is going to go, where gold prices are going to go. And at the end of the day, they're paid to do a job, and most of them do a shit-house job anyway. So don't worry about it. When it comes to the Melbourne Cup, you know that most of the guys, most of the top analysts can't pick a winner if their life depends on it. So just take it into perspective, understand that it's not worth worrying about, and just to enjoy yourself and back yourself, back your intuition, and get on with your life. Take care, everybody, and we'll chat again. Yassas from Jim's 5am Club. If you like ya, and we'll chat again. Bye.